I'll never forget the day I walked into Summit Crest Autos wearing my old Carhartt jacket and worn jeans. I was mocked, humiliated, and ordered out like I didn't belong there. They judged me by my appearance and decided I wasn't worth their time. But what they didn't know, someone was quietly watching everything unfold. And when the truth finally came out, their smug faces turned to absolute terror in seconds. I'm Sarah Gate, and this is the story of how I was kicked out of a luxury car dealership, only for everyone to realize they'd made the biggest mistake of their careers. Before I tell you exactly what happened next, the public firings, the apologies, and how I walked out of there with all 3 cars, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Because stories like this, they need to be heard. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Now, let's get started. I've never been someone who flaunts wealth or wears designer labels. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate quality, but I've always believed that practicality beats pretense. That Saturday afternoon, I was dressed in my favorite olive green Carhartt jacket, the one I'd worn to countless client meetings and community events, a comfortable pair of faded Levi's 501 jeans, and my trusty scuffed Converse sneakers. I'd just finished mentoring a young woman at St. Mary's Church that morning, helping her understand investment portfolios, and honestly, I didn't think twice about my appearance when I decided to stop by Summit Crest Autos in Riverside on my way home. You see, I'd been planning this purchase for months. Actually, not just 1 car, I wanted to buy 3. 1 for myself, and 2 as gifts for my daughter and son, both of whom had worked incredibly hard and deserved something special. I'm a senior financial advisor at Riverfront Financial Advisors, and I've been blessed with a successful career spanning over 2 decades. I work hard, I save wisely, and I'd set aside exactly $212,000 specifically for these vehicles. Summit Crest Autos had the exact models I wanted. I'd done extensive research online, compared prices across dealerships, read customer reviews, analyzed financing options, and I knew precisely what I was looking for. I was genuinely excited as I pushed through those gleaming glass doors into the showroom. The place was absolutely stunning. Modern light fixtures cast a warm glow across the space. The polished floors reflected the afternoon sunlight streaming through massive windows, and rows of gorgeous luxury vehicles gleamed under perfect showroom lighting. The air carried that distinct scent of premium leather and new car smell that fills you with possibility. Well-dressed customers moved through the space, examining vehicles, while salespeople in tailored suits attended to them with practiced professionalism. I felt a quiet sense of accomplishment as I walked toward a beautiful metallic gray SUV that had caught my eye during my online research. It was even more impressive in person, with clean lines and elegant detailing. I adjusted my thin-frame glasses and ran my fingers gently along the hood, admiring the craftsmanship, then leaned down to read the specification card. This was exactly what I wanted for myself. "Can I help you?" I turned around with a warm smile, ready to discuss features, options, and payment arrangements. A young man in an expensive-looking navy suit stood there, but the expression on his face immediately dimmed my enthusiasm. He wasn't looking at me like a potential customer. He was looking at me like I was something that had wandered in from the street by mistake. "Yes, thank you," I said, maintaining my professional tone despite the coldness in his eyes. "I'm very interested in this SUV. I'd like to discuss the features and perhaps look at financing options for—" "Ma'am," he interrupted, his voice dripping with condescension that made my skin prickle. "This vehicle starts at $78,000. Are you absolutely sure you're in the right place? There's a buy here, pay here lot about 4 miles down the road. That might be more suitable for your situation." I felt warmth flood my cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the effort it took to control my reaction. As a Black woman in finance, I dealt with my share of condescending attitudes over the years. But this was different. This was blatant, cruel judgment based solely on how I looked. I'm well aware of the pricing, I replied, keeping my voice steady and professional. I've researched this model extensively. I'm seriously interested in making a purchase today. Actually, purchasing 3 vehicles, and I'd appreciate if you could provide me with information about. He actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a mocking laugh that echoed slightly in the showroom space. He glanced across the floor at another salesperson and shook his head with exaggerated disbelief. "Look," he said, his fake patience painfully obvious. "I think there's been some confusion about what kind of dealership this is. These aren't regular vehicles you're looking at. These are premium luxury automobiles for serious buyers with substantial means. Maybe you saw something in a commercial and got curious. I understand the appeal, but honestly, you're wasting your time here. And frankly, you're wasting mine too." My hands trembled slightly at my sides, not from fear or intimidation, but from the sheer effort it was taking to maintain my composure in the face of such disrespect. "I am not confused," I said firmly. "I came here specifically because I've done my research and I'm prepared to make a significant purchase. If you would simply listen to what I'm asking. Is there a problem here, Ethan?" A woman in a sharp charcoal pantsuit approached us, her heels clicking with authority across the showroom floor. Her platinum bob was styled perfectly, her posture rigid and commanding. She clearly held a position of authority, likely a manager. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps she would intervene professionally and redirect the situation toward actual customer service. "This woman seems confused about where she is," Ethan said loudly, making no effort whatsoever to lower his voice for privacy. I could feel other customers beginning to turn in our direction. I've tried explaining that she's in the wrong establishment, but she keeps insisting on staying and taking up time. The manager, whose nameplate read Kate Thompson, looked me up and down with the same judgmental assessment Ethan had performed. I watched her eyes catalog every detail: my practical jacket, my comfortable jeans, my worn sneakers, my simple leather tote bag. I could see her mentally calculating my worth and finding me severely lacking. "Ma'am, I'm going to be very direct with you," she said, her tone cold and dismissive. "This is a premium luxury dealership. Our vehicles require substantial financial investment and serious buyer commitment. Based on your current presentation, I genuinely don't believe we have anything remotely within your budget range. We're extremely busy today with actual qualified buyers, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately." Actual qualified buyers. The word struck me like a physical blow. I wasn't qualified because of my clothes, because of my appearance, because of assumptions they'd made in seconds without knowing anything about me. "I have the financial means," I said, and I hated that my voice was beginning to shake now, betraying the hurt and anger building inside me. "I came here today fully prepared to make a significant purchase. All I'm requesting is basic professional courtesy and the opportunity to. Courtesy is something that's earned." She cut me off sharply, her words like ice. "And people who can genuinely afford our vehicle inventory don't typically arrive dressed like they've just come from yard work. Now, I've asked you politely once. Don't make the situation more difficult than it needs to be." "Marcus." My eyes stung with tears I desperately fought to hold back. Ethan was smirking openly at me now. Several other salespeople had drifted closer, drawn by the commotion, and I could hear whispered comments and quiet laughter rippling through the group. Other customers had stopped their browsing entirely and were openly staring at the scene unfolding. In my entire professional career, through all the challenges I'd faced as a black woman in a predominantly white industry, I had never felt so utterly humiliated, so completely reduced to nothing based purely on surface judgments. "You're actually refusing me service because of my clothing?" I asked, my voice breaking despite my best efforts to maintain composure. "Because I don't look wealthy enough by your standards?" We're refusing to waste valuable time and resources, Kate said flatly. Her arms crossed. Marcus, please escort this woman off the property. Now. A tall security guard approached me slowly, and I felt tears finally break free and slide down my cheeks. This couldn't actually be happening. I had walked in here as a legitimate customer with real money, with genuine purchase intent, and they were removing me like I was some kind of threat or vagrant. This is absolutely unbelievable, I said, wiping at my eyes with the back of my hand. I came here prepared to spend over $200,000 today, and you're treating me like a criminal, like I'm somehow beneath you. If you genuinely had that kind of money, you certainly wouldn't dress like that, Ethan said mockingly, and several people actually laughed out loud at his comment. Kate held up her hand with theatrical sarcasm, a cruel smile playing at her lips. Tell you what, if you actually have the money you're claiming, prove it right now. Show us. Do you have your supposed fortune hidden somewhere in that worn-out bag? The laughter that erupted around me was sharp and cutting, echoing through the pristine showroom. It felt like I was drowning in shame and humiliation, surrounded by people who had decided I was worthless without knowing a single thing about who I actually was. The security guard reached toward my arm, clearly uncomfortable but following orders, and I was absolutely certain this would become the most degrading moment of my entire life. Stop! The single word sliced through the laughter like a blade. Everything went silent. Every head in that showroom turned simultaneously toward the source of that commanding voice. A man I hadn't noticed before was rising from a seat in the waiting area across the lobby. He wore a simple merino sweater and casual pants, nothing expensive or flashy. But something about the way he carried himself as he walked across that showroom floor commanded immediate attention. His face was set in an expression of barely controlled fury. "Sir, this doesn't concern you," Kate said sharply, though I detected a slight waver in her previously confident tone. "Please return to your seat and—" "My name is Peter Crouch," the man said quietly, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent showroom. He walked directly to where I stood and positioned himself beside me. And this concerns me very much indeed. The reaction was instantaneous and dramatic. Kate's face drained of all color, going from annoyed authority to deathly pale in seconds. Ethan's smirk vanished completely, replaced by an expression of dawning horror. Several salespeople gasped audibly, hands flying to their mouths. Even through my tears, I could see panic spreading like wildfire across every face that had moments ago been laughing at my humiliation. Peter Crouch. Even in my emotional state, I knew that name. Everyone in Southern California knew that name. He didn't just own Summit Crest Autos. He owned the entire Summit Crest Auto Group, all 15 dealerships across the region. And he'd been sitting there watching everything. "Mr. Crouch," Kate stammered, her voice trembling like leaves in a storm. "We didn't know you were here." "I didn't realize." "Of course you didn't realize," Peter said, his voice cold and measured. "That was precisely the point. I visit my locations unannounced to see how they truly operate when no one thinks the owner is watching. And what I just witnessed, the cruelty, the prejudice, the complete absence of basic human decency, it was absolutely disgusting." He turned to me, and his expression softened immediately. "Ma'am, I apologize from the depths of my heart for what you just experienced here. This is not what my company stands for. This is not what I built these dealerships to represent." I was still crying, struggling to process the sudden shift in everything. "I just wanted to buy cars for my family," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I have the money. I came here prepared." "I know you do," Peter said gently. "And even if you didn't have a single dollar to your name, you would still deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Every human being who walks through these doors does." He turned back to Kate and Ethan, and his expression hardened like steel. I've been conducting anonymous visits across my dealership chain for months now, he said, his voice cutting through the silence. Some locations have passed beautifully. Their staff treated every single person with kindness and professionalism, regardless of appearance or assumptions. But this is the worst failure I have witnessed. He held up his phone, and I saw the screen was still recording. I have documented everything. Every insult, every mocking laugh, every moment of humiliation you inflicted on this woman. Kate Thompson, Ethan Phelps, you're both terminated. Effective immediately. Collect your personal belongings and leave these premises within the next 30 minutes. Mr. Crouch, please, Kate begged, her voice breaking with desperation. I was just trying to maintain standards. You thought you could judge someone's worth by their jacket and shoes. Peter cut her off sharply. You thought discrimination was an acceptable business practice. You were catastrophically wrong. Leave now, both of you. I don't want to see your faces in any of my establishments ever again. I watched, still wiping tears from my cheeks, as Kate and Ethan walked away in complete shame. The customers who had laughed were suddenly fascinated by the floor. The salespeople who had gathered to witness my humiliation scattered like startled birds. Marcus, the security guard, stood frozen nearby, his face etched with relief that he hadn't actually touched me. Peter addressed the remaining staff, his voice firm and authoritative. Effective Monday morning, this entire location undergoes mandatory sensitivity and customer service retraining. I don't care if someone walks through those doors wearing pajamas and flip-flops. If they're respectful and interested, they deserve respectful professional service. Is that absolutely crystal clear to everyone here? A chorus of yes, Sir echoed weakly through the showroom. He turned back to me, his expression genuinely apologetic. Ma'am, I know this experience was horrible, and I cannot undo what happened to you here today. But I would very much like to make this right if you'll allow me. Would you be willing to tell me what you originally came here hoping to purchase? I took a deep breath, composing myself as best I could. I wanted to buy 3 vehicles. I said, my voice steadier now. The gray SUV for myself, and 2 sedans as gifts for my daughter and son. I'm a senior financial advisor at Riverfront Financial Advisors, and I've saved $212,000 specifically for this purpose. I pulled out my phone with slightly trembling hands and showed him my bank statements and savings documentation. Peter looked at them briefly, then shook his head with deep sadness. You walked in here as a completely legitimate customer with serious financial means, and they treated you like this. I am profoundly sorry. He paused thoughtfully. I understand completely if you don't want to make any purchase from this particular location after what you've experienced. I have 14 other dealerships in the Summit Crest family, and I can personally guarantee you'll be treated with the respect and dignity you deserve at every single one of them. I'll give you my personal cell phone number, and I'll ensure you receive the absolute best pricing possible as a sincere apology for what happened here today. I looked around the showroom one more time, taking in all the faces, carefully avoiding my gaze now. Part of me wanted to walk out and never think about Summit Crest Autos again. But another part of me, the part that had just endured something genuinely horrible, wanted to hold my head high and move forward with dignity intact. I think I'd prefer to visit a different location. I said quietly but firmly. No disrespect intended to the staff here who weren't involved in this, but I don't think I could feel comfortable completing a purchase at this particular showroom after everything that's happened. I completely understand and respect that decision, Peter said warmly. Let me personally drive you to our Newport Beach flagship location right now. The manager there is exceptional, and I absolutely know you'll be treated beautifully. As we walked together toward the exit, I turned back one final time. The showroom remained silent, the staff looking genuinely shocked and ashamed. Marcus stood perfectly still, probably realizing how dangerously close he'd come to physically removing a legitimate customer right in front of the company owner. For what it's worth, I said, my voice still carrying traces of emotion but stronger and clearer now. I genuinely hope you all learned something important today. Don't ever judge people based solely on their appearance. You never truly know who they are, what they've overcome, or what they're capable of achieving. Kindness and respect cost absolutely nothing, but they mean absolutely everything. Peter drove me to the Newport Beach location himself, apologizing sincerely the entire 20-minute journey. When we arrived, the staff there treated me with genuine warmth and professionalism, not because they knew who I was or how much money I had in my accounts, but because that's apparently how they treated every single person who walked through their doors. I ended up purchasing all 3 vehicles that afternoon, and the experience couldn't have been more different from what I'd endured earlier. The sales advisor listened carefully to my needs, answered every question thoroughly, and made me feel valued and respected throughout the entire process. 2 weeks later, I heard through professional networks that both Kate and Ethan had struggled significantly to find new employment anywhere in the automotive industry. Word travels fast in business communities, and their reputations have been severely damaged beyond easy repair. The downtown Newport Beach location staff received substantial bonuses for their consistently excellent customer service. And the Riverside location where I'd been humiliated, they underwent extensive retraining programs, and Peter personally monitored their progress and customer feedback scores for months afterward. I learned something powerful and unforgettable that day. Your worth as a human being isn't determined by your clothing, your car, your neighborhood, or your bank account balance. Dignity is something every person deserves, simply because they're human. And sometimes, the universe has a perfect way of teaching that crucial lesson to people who desperately need to hear it most. What do you think? Did Peter Crouch handle this the right way? Should consequences have been even stronger? Let me know in the comments. If this story resonated with you, show some love by hitting that like button and sharing this video. Your support helps stories like mine reach people who need to hear them. And subscribe to this channel. We share powerful real-life stories about respect, justice, and human dignity every single day. I'm Sarah Gate. Stay kind, stay humble, and I'll see you in the next story.